So he is wide receiver number 2?
He'd be wide. Well, here's the thing. With Jonnu Smith coming in, and this will be interesting for when his contract comes up, is Kyle Pitts now considered wide receiver more than tight end, or are he still your tight end?
No, listen. From a designation standpoint, wide receivers get paid more. They just do.
I mean, I know what we're going to call. They'll say Falcons will call him a tight end, but I think we're going to use him more like a wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, Mike, I think that's what he should be out. You should the size matchup issues that he creates at 6'6". We forget how fast Kyle Pitts is. I know he was injured, but we forget. So now you're telling me I got to deal with Drake London and Kyle Pitts, and if you're telling me, and again, I don't want to say he's a slot because Mack Hollins and the way this offense is run, at least currently as we see it, it may change. But I don't want to say Mack Hollins is a slot guy. I think he's a guy that you're going to line up wide, and you're going to ask him to go make plays and some catches for you again at 6'4", 221. I went and saw some of his highlights when I heard this on the road when I was traveling. I said, okay, let me go see. I didn't watch enough Raider games last year to know what kind of impact he had. He had some highlights. He had some nice catches. I just like the fact that he's a bigger guy and has a larger catch radius. And when we talk about this stuff, we love OZ for what he was, right? Olamide Zaccheaus was a really, really good piece. But he was a smaller-ish
He's a water bug. He's a speed demon.
And you didn't have that catch radius, Mike, where I'm going to throw it up, and guess what? Because of my length and size, I'm just going to go make this catch because now I have the ability to do that. Olamide Zaccheaus, guys, a lot of times he lost those 50-50 balls because he just wasn't big enough.
So I think we'll still draft another wide receiver for sure. We'll draft a running back because even if you got a 1,000-yard back, everybody in the league knows you got to have even more. You can't ever have enough running backs, and CP eventually will be off the roster. So I still think in the draft we're going to build. But I'm a little surprised that some Falcon fans wanted us to go get Adam Thielen. I got to be honest. For 32 years of age, I think the Panthers just overpaid for Thielen up the road.
Well, they needed one, right? They traded DJ Moore. They needed a guy, and they're willing to at least give whatever quarterback they're going to get a guy who has, I think, from the standpoint of reliability, Thielen's really good. You can rely on him. He doesn't miss games, Mike. He's been healthy. I think they had to kind of overpay to give whoever they're going to draft a quarterback a shot.
3-year, $25 million deal. And last year, 716 yards. Obviously, Justin Jefferson is the show up there in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So I just considered at the age, he'll be 33 this summer. So but again, I liked him if we could get him cheap. I didn't like him for that price. So good for them. But we can still go get more wide receivers. There was an entire tier of wide receivers, which Fontenot's background, remember when we first hired him, Carl, was famous for getting guys value because the Saints never had any cap space. So we could always find good free agents. He's found some good free agents, but do you think there's one or two more pieces that we need here?
Yeah.
You're not really going to find that marquee edge rusher. They signed Lorenzo Carter back for another couple of years. What about, we mentioned earlier, upset Rashaan Evans could be on the way out?
Well, I just don't know what the plan is. I would have thought that was going to get done last week, and then when I heard that it wasn't, it just makes me believe that that's probably not going to happen. But the way these deals have come out, if you've looked around the league and how some of these deals have been structured, I'm not going to say no until we get to the point where we realize he's not coming back. We're not there yet. They could still be talking, but I think the further along you go, Mike, and here's the example I would use. If a guy is important to the makeup of your team and you feel like he is a guy that you need to bring back, what you see happen in most cases, guys, is a situation like Caleb McGarry, right? We're not going to franchise tag you. His situation was different than what we're talking about with Evans. But, Mike, it doesn't take this long. That's the point. If they were going to bring back Caleb McGarry and they said, hey, we're not going to franchise tag you, but the whole time they're working on a long-term deal, and then the next week you get that deal. With Rashaan Evans, if you wanted him back and you thought he was the guy that was, hey, he's going to really help us, it doesn't take this long, especially guys that you already are on your team and you know what they can do. We
spoke to Caden Ellis, and a great thanks to everybody from the Falcons, David Bassett and company. We got all the free agents. They all got stuck in traffic. Randy Carl was supposed to get everybody.
Yeah.
And then by the time they got to the branch, we got to talk to everybody.
Welcome to Atlanta.
So that's what who was it? Jesse Bates said that. Wow, there's traffic. You get used to it. But Caden Ellis, you brought this up earlier. 7 sacks for a guy who played in all 17 games last year. He was a low-round draft pick, 7th round out of Idaho. Sort of a slow burn for Nielsen, the DC, that he brings over here. And perhaps he'll have more of an impact. I kind of looked at him as like a rotation guy, but this guy may have an impact.
No, I think he's a starter. I do. I think he's going to be a guy that they rely on. He talked about the formations and things that they did in New Orleans that allowed him and others to get sacks. That's what I want to hear. What are we trying to do to free up guys to get sacks? It's Dukes and Bell. It's our Falcon Report, guys.